So by now we've understood this breakthrough in the context of triple entry accounting. We began with the Keynesian paradigm, which emphasizes that employment results from stimulating demand or spending, and this is primarily modulated by central bank interventions in interest rates and money supply. We pointed out several anomalies in this paradigm, which are examples of a much larger anomaly, and this is the observation that interest rates drop towards zero and go even negative, while the money, or the currency supply rather, increases pretty much indefinitely. And so money is an inflationary unit in this paradigm. Unfortunately, this makes for a very fragile system, and this is evidenced by how the coronavirus pandemic precipitated another crisis when the Dow recently tumbled by 39% within a matter of a month in March. And what was the response to this? The Federal Reserve announced unlimited quantitative easing, and its balance sheet has since gone vertical. And why is this bad? Because unfortunately, it's a violation of trust playing out like 2008 all over again as the bailouts go to Wall Street at the expense of the taxpayer. So with this in mind, it's hard to argue with these perspectives because inflation debases currency and transfers wealth from the poor to the rich via rising asset prices, as we saw earlier. It's strongly suggested that these kinds of bailouts drove the creation of Bitcoin, because this headline, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks, was put into the Genesis block, or block 0, of the Bitcoin blockchain by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009. And 11 years later, here we are, facing the largest unemployment claims number in history, while the Dow has its best week since 1938, because the Fed pumped it up with currency created out of nothing, which by now you understand was actually wealth stolen from you. So while the stock market has recovered since the plunge, the problem of reckless money printing remains, and it has planted the seeds for an ominous outcome known as hyperinflation. The Weimar Republic in the early 1900s and Zimbabwe within the last decade are just two of the many examples of such a scenario where currencies have failed and have become worthless. It's critical to understand that all fiat currencies have a 100% failure rate because the paper eventually returns to its intrinsic value of zero. Indeed, money does appear to be losing its meaning, as Bloomberg has pointed out, because trust is eroded with these bailouts. In contrast to the inflationary design of money in this paradigm, the supply of Bitcoin released per block decreases with time. It started with 50 Bitcoins per block in 2009 and reduced by half every 4 years, and is again scheduled to be cut in half during May of 2020. Over time, this money is seen as deflationary, and this is an important principle in the Austrian paradigm of economics as it relates to sound money. Because value is rooted in scarcity, Bitcoin represents digital scarcity with properties resembling sound money, and its value is therefore expected to rise with time as it becomes scarcer every 4 years. So here we have Austrian ideas demonstrating how money could increase in value simply as a function of time. Could it be beneficial to adopt other Austrian economic principles as well? Perhaps the boom-bust cycles aren't occurring despite of central bank interventions, but rather because of, and come to represent the cause of these violent ups and downs. So by introducing concepts that have long been ignored, this technological breakthrough represents a paradigm shift in economics. By incentivizing everybody to work together towards a common goal on the network, it's also a paradigm shift in game theory. The Byzantine generals problem is found in distributed computing systems, so this is moreover a paradigm shift in computer science and information technology, and the digital signatures that enable triple entry accounting also shift the paradigm in the field of cryptography. Thus far, we discussed economics exclusively in the context of monetary policy orchestrated by central banks, but in reality it operates very closely with fiscal policies like taxes and expenditures enacted by governments. Similar to how central banks and monetary policy are replaced by computer code, the computer code can disintermediate or even enhance certain inefficiencies found in fiscal policy, and therefore shifts the paradigm in governance. And of course, a breakthrough of this magnitude means this is far from an exhaustive list. As we will see in future videos, this also brings about a paradigm shift in neuroscience, psychology, and psychiatry. Fundamentally, by applying mathematics to eliminate the middleman, this technology blazes the trail for a trust revolution. Because people don't have to trust each other for crucial tasks like managing entries in a ledger, for example, and eventually validating other real-world events, because the trust is put into computer code, the value of distributed ledger technology lies in trustless verification of events. To be clear, the point here is not to foment riots or anarchy, but rather to shed light on the crux of the problem so that we can address it and build a better world. The systems currently in place are fraught with a lack of trust, centralization, which prevents efficient processing of information and timely decision making, and perverse incentives that lead to misguided actions that benefit only a select few. This is evident not only in our financial system, but also healthcare organizations such as the CDC and the WHO, who did not provide consistent guidance on the use of masks due to shortage concerns, for example. And as a psychiatrist, it's incredibly frustrating to work in a setting where we spend more time on documenting to prove the work that we did compared to the amount of time spent with patients. So what does it look like when the middleman is no longer relevant to verify these events? It's difficult to fathom, but without a doubt, this technology will transform every aspect of our lives by addressing these core problems. Like the Bitcoin network architecture, the United States is also a decentralized and distributed network comprised of the 50 states. The decentralization of power is what the Founding Fathers had intended when they wrote the Constitution of this great nation, and that is what this technology enables by empowering us to build a system that works for the people rather than the other way around, which is the status quo at the moment. So in summary, distributed ledger technology eliminates the middleman to add skin in the game and decentralizes control, power, and responsibility. Bitcoin is not controlled by any central authority and represents money, whereas fiat money is currency controlled by central parties that dilute the purchasing power of your hard-earned wealth and have historically failed 100% of the time. Like Henry Ford's commentary on our monetary system, even George Washington himself said, "Paper money has had the effect in your state that it will ever have, to ruin commerce, oppress the honest, and open a door to every species of fraud and injustice." So by restoring trust in the soundness of money, this technology will dramatically restructure our society and empower us to build systems for the people, by the people.